Hey everyone, welcome to our second Samantha and Sarah's Inspired Living. Welcome, Samantha. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Loving summer and so excited for our launch this week.
It's only a few days away. We are pretty excited. So,
Yeah.
for those joining, welcome. We're excited to see you all today. And we are, feel free to comment in the boxes and be a part of the conversation, especially if you've got any questions. You feel free to ask, right?
Mhm.
I'm just adding this. I'm playing around with this. We're figuring out all of this fancy stuff that my restream does. So each time I do another one, I'm like, oh, it does this as well.
Learn as we go. It's awesome.
Well, not many people actually use these kinds of things like Restream. I think there's different types of ones as well, but they're actually pretty cool. So I hope everybody enjoys it. So today we are going to talk a little bit more about the book. So obviously last time we gave you some kind of like top tips about inspired living. But today we really wanted to talk a little bit more about what our chapters are about, to hopefully inspire you to get the book this week. So, Samantha, we'll start with you, like to throw you under the bus. So, what? Why not, hey?
That's right.
So, who are the main characters within your chapter?
Oh, yes, this is it was really fascinating when we were going through the development of our chapters, and I knew that I was going to be in my chapter somehow, but I didn't know exactly how I was going to like paint the story I wanted to tell. But my main characters ended up being God, the devil, an angel, and me.
That's awesome.
So just like exploring the dynamics of my relationship, which with each of those three, and how like the emotional pulls between all of us, the life challenges that come up between all of those relationships, and ultimately the for me the redefinition of who I am, redefining God, devil, and angel so that it's really true to my spiritual beliefs, my life practices, and the way that I want to interact more inclusively with other people in the world, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I think
Yeah.
it's fascinating when you think about the different approaches that each of the writer is going to have in this
Mhm.
book. There's 5 sections. I haven't written this down, so I'm going to try and do it off the top of my head. So I know there's creativity, there's flow.
Mhm.
Can you remember what the other 3 are?
I think one is really inspiration, reclaiming inspiration or coming
Yeah.
back to inspiration.
And there isn't there one about abundance?
Mhm. And abundance and prosperity.
And there's one
The
more.
fifth one, curiosity? No.
Could
The
be.
fifth one I always blank on also.
Yeah.
A little bit of a block there. I'm in creativity. You are in
The flow.
flow.
Yeah. Go with the flow, man. That's what I do, but I kind of do and I don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, if you're watching today and we're piquing your curiosity, um just letting you know that there are so many, well, there's 22 people writing in this book, and
Mhm.
the different perspectives you're going to have of people's stories is going to be kind of cool, I think.
Mhm. Yes, and our publisher has been awesome at with all these unique perspectives, that consistent theme and consistent flow, like each of us kind of has our own unique take, but we have consistent language we're using in our chapters, and then those 5 themes that Sarah mentioned to make sure that if you do come to read the book, you're going to get like a cohesive experience. It's not going to be this random like splatter paint, right? But you can also probably read it intuitively and
Yeah.
just go to the chapters that resonate most, and then finding even people like us who are in the different themed sections of the book, but our chapters resonate with each other.
Exactly.
Really.
Yeah, and I think, and the people that I have connected with, they are like so vastly different as well, but
Mhm.
somehow so connected.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
there's definitely no as I say, you can't make that shit up, basically.
Mhm.
We've all been brought together for a reason, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And you tell us who your main characters are.
So I really spoke about my journey as starting from the inner child, starting from the child version of me all the way through to where I am now. So it's very related to the cycles of the earth and my stepping into my gift. So I go back and forth. I go to like prominent parts of my life. It starts off where I'm a
Mhm.
child, and then it goes back to childhood and then back to where I am now. So as I say, very different when you think about how you've done relationships with like God, the devil, and angel and yourself.
Mhm.
And mine is the same in the respect that it's my relationship with my gift and the cycles of the earth.
Mm.
Super fascinating, isn't it?
It is. It's so cool. And so much of this self discovery, self development that's really, really, really deep.
Yeah.
And I think all of us as authors have done so much self work, but even going through the writing process, how much deeper we've had to go,
And that's
right?
part of the journey, I think, that
Mhm.
people I wasn't expecting, because writing has always been something I've really enjoyed to do, so I
Yeah.
was very excited to be a part of this. But yeah, things come out of it that you just don't expect. So even as you say, connecting with like who's going to be the main voice, who's going to be the
Mhm.
character, who am I going to explore in this.
Mhm.
And I find it interesting, when I think about like the child in this, because we always look back. For me, I think we look back at our paradigms. They're already laid within us at, they say before the age
Yeah.
of 7, all our paradigms have been already placed upon us. So going back to that part, connecting with like who were you and what did you want to be, and then how do we bring that into this world now, you know
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really curious right now, off of our first question here, who are the main characters? I also want to ask, like, how does your story start? Where do
it's
people enter into your journey?
so for me, you're literally at nighttime when I'm laying in bed
Mm.
and I'm being bombarded with spirits.
Hmm.
So I would say that I was probably around the age of 7 that I vividly remember that.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah,
That's so cool.
that's how my chapter starts. So how does yours start? Where do you pull us in?
Mine starts in young adulthood, going through, excuse me, like kind of a mental, emotional, spiritual moment of meltdown.
Yeah.
Like all the vulgar language that comes up with like the if you've never experienced it, it probably won't make sense, but if you've ever felt this and wondered what it is, it's that moment of like, I'm starting to spin, I'm starting to lose control, I don't know what's happening, I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
Am I here doing what I'm supposed every single existential life question that comes up and
That is
wondering what's going on.
right.
Yeah.
So awesome. I'm
Yeah.
actually super excited to read everyone else's stories. I think
Mhm.
it was actually your interview I was watching with Crystal the other day, and how you were saying like the process, like even though we were a group of writers, but we were still very separate in our journey. And
Mhm.
then now we've all kind of come together. So it is going to be super interesting
Yeah.
to see what other people's stories are about and how they've connected with those,
Yeah. And
right?
the writing process was about 3 months long, right? We
Yeah,
had about 3 months to get our chapter
I had
together.
1 month. i
Oh,
joined
that's
in
right.
I
Yeah,
joined
yeah,
in March and had 1 month to write my chapter.
yeah. So that was really interesting, and the weekly group meetings we had. we never talked about it, what we were writing. The conversations were always about how are we doing,
Yeah.
right? Like emotionally, are things coming up? Are you having any writing blocks? What's
And it
going on
is,
with your
and
business? How are you going to be talking about this with other people? So practicing all the way back in February, March, April
yeah.
to prepare us for this moment and to do it in the future even more.
And
It's
I
been
was talking to
amazing.
Crystal about that yesterday. You know, if you're out there thinking, hey, you know, I want to write a book and you're thinking about self publishing,
Yeah.
going through this process, there's so much stuff that I wouldn't have even like tapped into, you know,
Hmm.
without having the support of that group and the
Yeah.
way that she puts it together. Yeah, it's like even the space to write, creating the space to write. And one of the, as you say, like the meetings, and then she has everything set out, like these things that chunks. But if you
Hmm.
didn't know, like if I was just to be like, man, I'm just gonna go on Amazon and write a Kindle book, honestly, it would have probably been a piece of crap.
And one person reads it,
Yeah,
right? Or your two
exactly.
friends read it.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So the next question we're going to go on to is what were the chapter titles and what
Mhm.
was the inspiration?
Yes. And this time you go first.
Okay, then. So
Yeah.
the main, I'm just going to give you the main chapter title because the subheading is really long and I can't memorize it. But weaving magic from Grove to Lee. So basically, the idea of this is a grove is like a forest of trees, and then the Lee is the meadow that you walk out into. So it was my journey of being in this
Mm.
forest until I step out into who I was. So, you know, the inspiration, and it was you know, you talk to anybody, and you're probably the same, Samantha, is that your title just comes to you.
Mhm.
You know, like you just well, for me personally, I put it out there. I kind of knew what my story was going to be about, and I put it out there, and then boom, it just comes to you one day. And
Mhm.
then I remember putting in my first edit to be read, and I was like, I don't know, I don't know if people are going to know what this means. You know, I was quite nervous about it. But then I had to put like you know, a kind of subhead to really pull people into what I was talking about. So the inspiration, I guess, when I think about my chapter and it being about my story of fully stepping into who I am and to being my authentic self, I
Mhm.
was just like full out there. It's got to be about magic, and it's got to be about how I weave those threads of magic into my life now. Because
Mhm.
before I was very, you know, I was very conservative about that, because like even though, you know, as a witch, I'm not going to get burned on the stake anymore. But I mean, there's still people out there that are, get away from me, you do this. So, especially in the community I live, it's very small, it's rural. So, to fully step into who I am and like, just this is who I am, you're either going to like me or you're not. So, the people are either going to be drawn to my house because of what I do, or they're going to stay well away from my house, right? But it's kind of exciting. I don't know. I thought it is mysterious as well. I think, you know, maybe that was part of why I wrote my heading, you know, my chapter title the way I did.
Yes.
Because for people that don't know what a grove and lee is, it's either going to draw people into the mysteriousness of it,
Mhm.
or it's going to repel people who are not going to want to read it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think something important that another point of resonance between the two of us is this rural context that we both live in, and how different it is to try to redefine ourselves or reclaim ourselves and redefine what it is that we do.
Yeah.
And I think both of us, as we talked about in our last conversation, we were both teachers. That's widely accepted because everybody knows and understands what a teacher does. But I think, especially as women, to become entrepreneurs in a rural space and to focus on self development,
Yeah.
it's so weird. It's so foreign to the communities that we're both from, that this is yet another really refreshing opportunity and a way to just expand and share our voices.
And the
Um,
hope really is that
yeah.
we do inspire others to do
Yes.
the same. You know, and I think
Mhm.
about when I put the press release out to all the local papers around here, and when the local paper in Fort McLeod, that's where I have my store, and the guy was so excited. And I'm like, I was really shocked. I was like, oh, you're actually going to write a story about this? And he's like, yes, I do. This is just so awesome. It
Yeah.
kind of really took me back, but I think what everybody's been through in the last couple of years, and people have seen me go from renting a room in a flower shop to
Mhm.
having this massive store and then it closing. And I think for people just to know that even though your dream might not look like you thought it should look in your mind, that it
Mhm.
doesn't mean you give up. You just keep going, keep going.
Mhm.
And I think this book is a way to help people see that story.
Yeah, and the truer we are to ourselves, that's the other theme in all of our chapters, I'm going to assume. So that if you're not true to yourself, nothing's ever going to be inspirational, joyful, prosperous, fun.
Exactly. And that's where we have that vision of being stuck in the rat run.
Yeah.
And I just remember teaching social studies and there being that cartoon, right? Of like
Mhm.
literally the box where the rats are running round and it's all about consumerism. So you go to work, but you're not actually getting paid anything because what you're doing at the end of each month is you're actually paying all your debt off so that you can
Mhm.
live this life and keep up with the Joneses. When what will really, I believe most people will understand when they get to like the end of life and they're looking back, like those things aren't going to be important to you. They're
Yeah.
really not. It's going to be the things you didn't do that you're going to regret, not the things that you did and went wrong.
Mhm.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
So what about you, Samantha? What is your chapter title and what was your inspiration?
My chapter is called "The Devil Returned Me to God," and the whole inspiration behind it goes back to what we talked about last time with this uh, patterns and habits of people pleasing, of always feeling like others need to be served before me. But the dark side of that has taken me into mistakes in my life, temptations in life that are like to get out of some of the stress that we experience when we're in that rat race or in the
Yeah,
hamster wheel, things that we do to escape that instead of face ourselves, sins committed, right? And
yeah,
what it feels like to basically persecute yourself
yeah,
as a bad person, as an unworthy person, but always staying true to that little voice inside of ourselves. Little, but it has so much wisdom and profound knowledge, right? So
exactly.
to be able to stay true to that voice and identify that even through those mistakes and temptations, by staying true to myself, I learned how to overcome it, how to get out of parts of my life that were really painful, really bad for me, really unhealthy. Yeah, and
So
just take the step out and say, "I'm done with all of this."
it
I know
sounds
temptations will keep coming, mistakes will keep happening, but here we go.
It's interesting though, because when we think about mistakes, it's we still live in a world that thinks that mistakes are a bad thing, and they're
Mhm,
really not, because that's where we do the most learning.
mhm.
If life was just easy and we were sailing through, I think as humans we become super lazy, because if we've got nothing to aim for, nothing to work for, how are we going to grow as people? So I
Mhm.
think mistakes are exciting because this is where we grow,
Yes,
you
and it
know?
keeps us out of, this term I have to think about. I just met a new woman the other day, and she kept using this term of being lulled into complacency.
Yeah.
And isn't that so much of, even though you might be in a rat race or you might be on the track that someone else has kind of deemed appropriate for you, being lulled into complacency is,
Yeah.
yeah, the thing that
Isn't that what
to get out
consumerism
of.
isn't that what like consumerism is? It's like,
Yeah.
well, this is what keeps you happy and content, but you're not
Mhm.
really happy, right?
Right. That
Yeah.
constant seeking outside of yourself for what's next, what's
Yeah.
next, more, more, more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things that just really popped into my mind while you were talking, for people who are thinking about buying our book, like just me and Samantha here are two examples of women who have stepped into their authentic self. So
Mhm.
even though the journey hasn't been easy, even though people don't agree with what we do, we stand out maybe a little bit where we live, but there is something to be said that stepping into who you truly are. If I believe if everyone could step into who they truly were, that see, I'm choking on my words
Right.
now, that we would really, that I think the world would just be a different place. You know what I mean? Is if like
Mhm.
I think there's so much when you think about like the patriarchal system, and you think about how women, everything was taken away, and now we've fought back, but now there's an unrealistic expectation that's placed upon us. We talked about that in our last video, I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
Perfect wife, perfect body, perfect mother, perfect career, at perfect house, perfect children. We have to have everything perfect, and it's so unrealistic. However,
Mm.
when we put those aside and we stop pleasing other people and paying attention to what it should look like from the outside in, and we start going from the inside out,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
And yeah, and it takes risks. It takes a huge risk to do those things because you're going to lose people. You might lose things in your life that you thought were important, but ultimately it's actually a like reprioritization of values and beliefs and weeding out. Thinking about from Grove to Lee, I
Yeah.
love that metaphor of you come out and into this open space and it's refreshing. You can see clearly. Even if you turn around and look back into the grove, at least you know how to navigate it this time if you
Yeah.
didn't before.
It's like if you think in Twilight where Edward goes out and he takes his clothes
Yes.
off just in front of everyone and sparkles. That's it, right? This is here
Yeah.
I am. Take me or leave me. And I
Yes.
think that's another interesting thing when you think about the risk we take to be our true selves. It's like people are going to leave our life. That
Mhm.
you really begin to understand that friends are transient in life.
Mm.
People are going to come into your life when you need them, and they're going to leave. And it's not necessarily always other people are teaching us lessons, and sometimes we're teaching people lessons as well.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. That's
Right?
gonna be my takeaway today. Remember that point. Because sometimes I forget that one. It's like
Yeah.
I always have to be learning and growing myself, but what impact am I having really? And
Yeah.
stop questioning that I if I am or not, or if
And
it's
that
right or
really goes
wrong.
back to that point, right? If we're
Yeah.
always looking from the outside in,
Mhm.
so these people have come into my life. What lessons were they teaching? What were they mirroring to me? What do I need to learn? But if we start coming from the inside out, then maybe that relationship that came in was us teaching them something.
Mhm.
Do we have to hold the responsibility of relationships to ourselves all the time?
Exactly. Yep.
Right?
Yep. And what's the responsibility of of other people in the world and in
Ex-
our own worlds?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Huh?
Beautiful. That was
Huh?
great. Thank you, Sarah.
So now, obviously, we're going to be talking about the book launch, which is Friday at 9 a.m. So it's 9 a.m. the country you live in. So obviously, Canada, 9 a.m. And I was thinking about that because it's like different time zones in Canada.
Mhm.
So I can't really tell you exactly when that is. I don't know if that's like the central time zone, but I'll, I don't know if you have an answer for that as well in the States, because the States has different time zones.
Right. I think for me, I usually go with New York City, right? Like the
Okay.
kind of for the US, the epicenter of when time begins in the day.
I
So
wonder
they,
if
for
that
me,
would
I think East Coast, but I'm planning on my own time zone at 9 a.m. because
be.
Crystal, our publisher, said local. So
Yeah,
wherever you are local, consider that your
yeah.
9 a.m.
So the exciting news is that on Friday we are launching the Kindle version, and it is going to be for one day 99 cents USD. So absolute still, like you'd be silly not to. For those of you out there who don't have Kindle, don't worry. You can still purchase a Kindle version. Like if you've got an iPhone, there's an iOS reader you can have for Kindle. I'm assuming the same for Android. So even if you don't have a Kindle, that there are readers that will open the Kindle version for you.
Yes. And you can purchase it, you purchase through Amazon, so you can also open it in your web browser to read.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
99 cents USD. So if you've got I'll put the link in after the video is finished as well into the comments. But if you click on this list, you'll actually be able to get our mastermind. So I think there was maybe like 13 or 14 of the readers that put together a top tip. So they speak about who they are, what their chapter is, and they kind of did a top tip. And we created a master for the whole book thing. So if you want some top tips on inspired living, you can register on Crystal Hill's website here. And then on the morning of the launch, you'll also have the direct link to Amazon to buy the book for 99 cents.
Yes. So please join us in this adventure of finding out what all the other chapters are about and digging deeper into each of our journeys because it's been
Exactly.
fascinating.
So, Samantha, are you going to get some hard copies? Are you going to do live reads or anything like that local to where you are?
Yeah, I've also been invited, which I did not expect this, but super cool. I got invited to do a book signing at like a local town festival. So, yeah, it's going to be
Ooh,
fun to do some in-person outreach as well
yeah,
as continue to do this virtually with people around the world.
that is super exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to. Yeah, I know the local paper wanted to know if I was doing live reads, so I thought, yeah, I could contact the three libraries that are around here, and then yeah, a book signing would be super cool. But I guess you do that after your. I mean, I'm not an author, so I don't really know. I'm winging it right now.
That's right. Create our own path also.
Right? For the live book signing after.
Yeah.
So, for those of you, as I say, if you can help us by buying the Kindle on Friday, the idea is obviously the more people that we can get to purchase on Friday, help us to get to that #1 bestseller on Amazon. That would be so awesome. I think the last book got on. I can't remember. Do you remember how many countries she said it was? There was quite a few, like 5 or 6 #1 bestsellers. So
Mm.
yeah, if that's what we're asking for today, obviously, is we hope that we've inspired you to find out more about our chapters, but obviously also the other writers. Even if you don't connect with our stories necessarily, that there really is going to be such an eclectic
Yes.
group of people, but all with the same thing of inspired living.
Hmm.
Oh.
Yes. Thank you, Sarah. And
Did you have
thanks to
any?
everyone who's joining our community. It's growing and it's so beautiful.
Exactly. So, do you think I missed anything? Anything we need to tell anyone before we go?
I don't think so. Just reiterating, join the masterclass, go get that link and purchase the book on Friday. Yeah.
And then me and Samantha will be back next month. We've got some things in the pipeline that we want to bring to you guys. So if you're enjoying this, look out for our event. Make sure that you save it, and we shall see you again very soon.
Thank you.
Okay, bye everyone. Thanks for joining.